Well, welcome everyone to the Base 2 Work From Home webinar, Thursday just before Easter, 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the initiative of some of the senior team here at Base 2. We wanted to find a way where we could humanize some of the talent that we had and get it in the hands of you, the wider clients that we have, and make sure that they're accessible. So this being the first one, we are not going to have all of the kinks ironed out. There is bound to be a couple of things that we'll learn as we go. But we have a fantastic team lined up here that will be able to assist us along the way. First off, but not least, we've got Ben Berry-Smith, who's our Head of Business Development. Ben has been quite architectural in putting together this Zoom conference and dragging in the right expertise. So without further ado, Ben, just want to give a quick hi and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. A lot of you will know me already, hopefully. Thanks for coming along. I run the sales team at Base 2, responsible for the account management, the new business lead generation, marketing, getting people's names right on mass emails, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here doing this for the first time, so it's all quite new. So yeah, as Sharpie said, Greg said, bear with us if there's any niggles. But,
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ben, and to you, Mr. Justin Sharrocks, who's wants to put your video on. It would be great. Who's well, recently promoted actually to Professional Services Manager. A little bit about yourself, Justin, and just the role you'll be playing today.
Yeah, sure. You guys, Justin here. So I'm the Professional Services Manager. We essentially deal with solutions and escalations within Base 2. You guys, I guess, generally have contact with our service desk team. We jump in when there are, I guess, bigger problems, and we look for future-proofing of solutions. Today, I'll be providing a bit of info in the Q&A, a bit of tech advice, and a couple of how-tos.
Cool, thank you very much. And last but certainly but not least, Mr. Stephen Richardson, who joined us when Ginger and Base 2 came together, and Steve's now one of our really valued and senior techs as part of the team. So we've got some good brain horsepower on here. And over to you, Steve, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I've obviously got a bit of a background on the tech side. I've got a bit of experience in running a business myself as well, so I feel like I'm in a really good position to help our client base to achieve things that they need to technically and otherwise. But a lot of my role here at Base 2 is focusing on automation and improvement constantly in and around all of the tech stuff. So yeah, I guess that's me.
Fabulous. Now, by way of those of you that I haven't met, I'm Greg Sharp. I'm the Managing Director of Base 2, and like you, as business people, navigating the very uncharted territories that we find ourselves in. You would have heard a lot of those colloquialisms and slangs. I'm not going to try and repeat them all, but what is great, and I would imagine like me, you would have been glued to the 1 o'clock briefings to see how the numbers are tracking. And those of you who haven't seen it, just 1 hour ago, actually Bloomfield and our PM announced that there was only 29 new cases for today. So what is looking remarkably favourable is that the 4 weeks is going to be 4 weeks. No promises, but we all start to need to think about what level 3 might be for us at the conclusion of level 4 lockdown on April 23rd. So some of what we're looking to achieve here is to address frustrations you've had, not necessarily with the company, although we're more than willing to hear about those. If there has been those, please do bring them up. Might be best to bring those directly with the account manager that you have, or most certainly with myself. But any of the technology frustrations you've had over the last couple of weeks when you've been working from home, those questions you will see at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. There is a Q&A field. Some of you have found it already because we can see some questions in there. I managed to put my mouse in the wrong place already once and say that I'd answered one when I hadn't. So I'll come back to that in a minute. But so the Q&A is where you can put up questions, and Justin, Ben, Stephen and myself will go about answering those. There is all of the Base 2 account management team is also participants on this webinar as well. So if you want to raise something for them, they will pick it up and circle back to you immediately afterwards. When we look about doing these, we thought, what are ways in which we could get multiple problems solved at a quicker amount of time, and perhaps pass on some learnings where we've got potentially a little bit more experience on this working from home and working remotely. So we want to get some of that knowledge out of the heads of the engineers and put it into your hands. So that's the introduction. By way of housekeeping, if you have a fire, then follow your own rules because you're in your own confines. We don't need to worry about that type of thing here. Same for your bathroom breaks. If you need to go for one, go for one. You'll probably be more inclined to know where that is, as opposed to we would be able to guide you. So please feel free to do so as you come and go as you please. Obviously, there's not a camera moving back the other way. Your ability to be able to interact with the session is through the chat, which goes off to everyone, and also to the Q&A. But really, we'd want to guide you into that Q&A because we'll be able to address those and type answers to them. And this session is being recorded, and we will make that available to all of those that registered, whether you actually attended or not. We're going to send out a link post that. Ben Berry-Smith is going to be running the session, if you like, and he's going to be looking at some of the Q&A questions and reading them out and then farming them off to Steve or Justin, and we'll be able to come through the answers. There is a possibility, I won't say a high possibility because we've got some good brain trust here, but there's a possibility that we won't know the answer to something. So we will make sure that we circle that back, and when we distribute the link to the recorded session, we're going to have those questions laid out with the appropriate answers and what we've found for you. So we're not going to leave any stones unturned. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Ben Berry-Smith, and he can start reading out the original questions that were supplied, and we can get the Q&A session underway. Thank you. Thanks for attending, and over to you, Ben.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Okay, just quickly, you obviously noticed that we're using Zoom for this webinar, and some of you may be wondering why we've done that when we've been talking about Microsoft Teams for so long. We did try the webinar functionality in Microsoft Teams, and we felt it was just a little bit clunky and not really ready. However, for an internal communication tool and for everything that it is good at, it's absolutely our preferred solution. So just to clear that up if anyone is wondering. We'll actually have a demo on Microsoft Teams shortly. After the initial email, we sent an email out to everybody asking if they had any questions. We selected some of those that we felt were appropriate and we could answer in this webinar. So we've selected a few of those. If you didn't ask one in that email, you can put it into the Q&A button, which looks like that. And or type them in the chat and we'll answer them either as we go or definitely at the end. Okay, so questions from you, our customers. So number one, what is the best preferred antivirus or anti-malware software product to protect your computer? A lot of you will already have subscribed antivirus products from Base 2, either Webroot or Sophos most likely, and there's pros and cons to each, and some are better in some situations than other. You might have questions about home antivirus, so I'd like to introduce Steve Richardson to talk about why we select antivirus and what's the best thing for you.
Yeah, well, so Base 2, we're partners with both Webroot and Sophos, so those are the ones that we've chosen primarily across our client base. Those are it really depends on the commercial situation, so the needs of the clients, the applications they're using, and that sort of thing. So we work through that with the customer before we go and deploy those things. And in terms of what you can use at home, most computers, they will have that Windows Defender type of antivirus, which comes built in. So unless you're doing something a bit obscure, then that would most likely suit in all the home situations. But yeah, a lot of the decision around the commercial side comes down to reporting and that sort of functionality at the other end.
I
Thanks,
just
Steve. What do you guys think about what are some free options for home users that might be working on computers that they don't have, well, especially right now in the middle of COVID, might be using a home computer that doesn't have WebRoot on it or Sophos on it?
I think, do you want to jump in? Sorry, Steve.
Sorry.
I think the main thing that we need to remember is any antivirus is better than no antivirus. But obviously, so Windows 10 comes standard with Windows Defender, and the basic version is pretty good in terms of if you're just running at home. I think when we go out to market with antivirus, the question I guess I like to put out there is what makes a good antivirus? You know, instead of asking what antivirus should I be using. And I guess there's three fundamental things that we like to look for is, you know, is it doing the job that it needs to do? So does it scan and does it protect? So does it fight antiviruses and does it stop malicious software? You know, and an antivirus shouldn't make your life more difficult. It should be fixing things silently in the background. So if you're seeing, you know, it slows down your computer or making life difficult with blocking everything that you're trying to install, that's obviously a problem. And then it should be simple. So when it finds a problem, it should remove the problem, and there shouldn't be too much room for human error. So it shouldn't be asking you a whole bunch of questions on what you think it should be doing. It should be proactively, I guess, doing all of that stuff for you. So yeah.
Very good.
Just to jump in there before we finish that off, is there any particular brands outside the ones that we go to that you think are good? I mean, I know Trend Micro is good. There's a number of them, right? But
yeah, from personal experience, I've got the free Sophos Home Edition on my computer, which was, it's free, it works fine.
So that would be the one that I would recommend as well, because it's quite all-encompassing. It tells you when there's something going on and wrong. Just to Steve's, the guy's point is that anything's better than nothing. We as a company most certainly look at a layered approach. So antivirus would be the bare minimum, and then there'd be some security at your home-based firewall. We use some DNS-based security, and we don't need to get into the terms, but multiple layers is where the extra security comes from. So get in contact with us if you think that you need something around those. We will find you the cheapest / free option, certainly for the next few weeks, and we're not looking to profit from any of this stuff. So by getting in touch, we'll if you think you've got some security holes, we'll find you the most cost-effective way to clear those up. So back to you, Ben.
Thank you. Number two is a good question. Like I say, probably a lot of people are using multiple computers and also probably have kids using old computers at home because they're stuck at home a lot. So there's probably a lot of slow computers out there. Justin or Steve, would you like to give us a few tips on doing this and how we can help as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a couple of simple checks that I think each user could probably do at home. I think any outside of those realms, it'd probably be best to maybe check in with us. But I think the simple one is, it actually comes back to the previous question, is check your antivirus. So an antivirus could be slowing your computer down. Some people we found have 2 antiviruses running in, and it doesn't actually make your computer more protected. They just fight each other until the death of your computer. So that's the first thing that we normally check. Remove any unnecessary software. So a lot of home computers generally come with a lot of bloatware. So that's a good place to start in terms of if you're unsure on what you can remove. That's something that we can definitely have a conversation around and help you guys do that too. Then you get the standard ones, which are disk cleanups. Your computer needs to be up to date to make sure that it's running as, I guess, Microsoft or Apple want it to be running. And then there's the last one, is the computer just too old? Because as we're growing into a new digital age, the software that we're running actually needs more to deliver what you want it to do. So yeah, I think those were my couple of steps. I don't know if Steve, if you wanted to add anything.
Oh, I think that covers off the good chunk of the starting points on that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to you, Ben.
Thanks, guys. All right, number 3, how do you see multiple people on the team on the screen in Microsoft Teams? So as far as I'm aware, I think it's actually a limitation that you can only have 4, and then it seems to jump around when you try and put on more than 4 people. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but they're working on that. Obviously, Microsoft Teams came out in, I think it was the end of 2018, but it really took off in 2019, and so it's still a relatively new product. We should see all this sort of stuff get, these kind of features get refined a lot more in future, and that's another example of why Zoom was first to market, or sooner to market, and has a lot better features in a lot of ways. But yeah, anything else you guys would like to add to that one?
Yeah, so Microsoft have obviously added that to their priority list, obviously with, I think, a lot of people opting for Zoom for that pure purpose. So that is on their priority list. We don't really have an ETA yet, but the current, you were correct, so it does restrict you to 4, and then it follows the noise. So whoever speaks, that puts them on the screen. Yeah, so limitation is 4 at the moment. Hopefully more to come soon.
Cool. So who's always on our meetings then? Greg? Justin?
More than likely. I just want to add something in there. Is that there's a huge amount of noise on the internet about the fact that Teams is behind Zoom and WebEx and the other main players at the moment. So it is most certainly in the crosshairs of Microsoft to sort out. Getting Microsoft to do anything quickly, we all know, is near on impossible, but it's certainly something they're going to sort out. So if you're thinking of changing because it's never going to be done by Microsoft, or yeah, we will happily talk to you about that, they are going to get it fixed. It's just a matter of how long.
Okay, thanks guys. The next one is quite a specific one, but curious to see how many people are affected by this. I mean, we have a remote monitoring agent on every computer that tells you to reboot, so this pops up for everybody. Number 5 is my computer has a pop-up to reboot. Should we ignore these? If you hover over it, it might say AEM. It has the little base 2 logo, and it looks like this. Steve, would you mind talking us through this and what it's about and why it's important?
Yeah, so this is a part of our management that we push out to everyone. So when we look after a computer, part of that process is the proactive side of things to make sure that they're patched on a regular basis and secure. So Microsoft regularly release these updates if they find holes in the operating system that need fixing to stop people getting in, that sort of stuff. So we just keep pushing those patches every day at around midday, so that just to keep all of your computers as secure as we can. So some of these updates require a restart to completely apply, and that's when you'll see these updates and this pop up on your machine. So if you do get this pop up, we would encourage you to reboot now if you can. If you're in a position where you're in the middle of something, maybe you're doing a webinar, or you've got some documents open that you don't want to lose at the moment, then hit postpone and it'll pop up. And we give you a 2-day grace period before we show that that will pop up again, but ideally we'd have you restart as quickly as you can afterwards to get those updates installed.
Thanks, Steve. I'm not sure which Steve is Steve. It looks like Charmaine, our office admin, has just joined as Steve too. It's one of those little bumps. Okay. All right, number 6, I'm operating from home with a VPN to the work server. The connection drops out around 5 times each day. Is this because our home internet needs a better capacity? There's obviously going to be a lot more strain on home internet right now with more people, and the main thing with internet speed, especially at home, I mean, obviously at businesses, but we take that into account for our customers, but at home you get a home-based router that your internet provider provided you. These are generally only designed to have maximum 5 things connected to them, and probably at for best performance, probably on this sort of end of 3 things connected to them. So if you've got iPad, TV, laptop, an iPhone, all trying to use it at once, it's definitely going to slow down, and it's actually the connection between your devices and the Wi-Fi rather than the internet connection itself. However, it can definitely be the internet as well, and you think about home-based connections, you're sharing essentially a pipe or a pool with everybody else that's in your neighborhood that's connecting to the same cabinet on the side of the road. So people connecting, people being at home right now and using the internet more, things like Netflix, YouTube use a lot of internet bandwidth, so they use more of the pipe at once. That can all affect it. We can definitely help, and give us a call or talk to your account manager about it. We can provide business connections to homes a lot of the time, so at least you get put into a different pool, and there'll be a bigger pipe available and less people in that pipe. So that could definitely help. It might be the case of getting a better wireless access point or a better router, which would be more suitable, especially if you've got a few people in your family or at your home. Anyone else like to add anything to that?
I think you did a pretty good job in covering that for a salesperson.
Well done. Justin, do you want to just go through the specifics of what the symptoms might be? Let's just talk it through what you are familiar with people seeing at home so that our listeners can identify with what it might actually look like to them and potentially where it might want to be solved. So start from someone using a computer at home and how it might manifest itself. Go for that.
Sure. So essentially what would be happening is you're probably working at home. You might be working fine on your emails and I guess general internet browsing, but as soon as you want to connect back to the office, so you connect to your VPN, and that kind of starts sending your traffic in. There's two ways of doing it. So you've either got split tunneling, which delivers your traffic all the way through the internet going to your office, and then you're essentially only using your office as internet and business use. So you're connecting to your file shares, your business application, and that tunnel is essentially delivering all of those services. But if you have 50 users and they're all doing that, your internet is obviously under a bit of strain at the office as well. So you're not only being bottlenecked at home with the shared medium that you're on using at home, but it could potentially be an issue with the way that the service is being delivered at the office, because essentially it wasn't set up for 50 people to work from home. But we have a couple of quick fixes that we could potentially just run and do some testing on yours, where we could break out that traffic. So we know you could use your home internet for just browsing on the internet, but you're essentially only using the VPN just to deliver those business essential applications. So there are some options. And yeah, if you just let us know, shout out, and we can definitely have a look at if we can get something working on your end.
Which would manifest itself in less drop-offs or hopefully eliminating them and therefore increasing
potentially just
to keep continuity of service.
Yeah, improving a bit of speed. Instead of 5 seconds, maybe it takes 2 seconds. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Back to you, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so the last one is there an easy way to electronically sign and file documentation without printing it? The answer is yes. I'm just going to drag this screen over. Can someone confirm they can see the Adobe webpage?
Yep, we can see that, Ben. Yep.
Cool, okay. I actually had a few technical niggles. I was trying to do a demo for this earlier, and so I've reverted to a help page. In the Acrobat Pro Adobe suite, I think it's about $200 a license per year. You can add a signature to any kind of PDF document or Word document, send it out. The person receiving it can sign it and send it back, and it's all official, and it uses certificates to and IP addresses to say that that person probably was that address and signing the document, so it's all legally bound. We can go through this more in detail when it actually works, and if you're interested in looking into this, send your account manager an email or give them a call. It's something we've used a little bit of, but to be honest, we actually have a signing software called ZenContract. This is the homepage here. Basically, it allows you to create a document, which a lot of you have probably actually seen. If you've signed any kind of recurring contract with us, you've already used one and been on the signing end. So this is one option. You can import a Word document or a PDF, make it your own, just put the information in, send it out for approval. Customer signs it, and then it comes back to you, and you both get a copy of the signed and executed agreement. I'm not going to give a full demo of this now, but I'll show you where you can sign up for one. This is what the dashboard looks like, and
right here we've got, I think it's on this page, there's actually another product which might be more relevant and is called Zen Sign. So the reason I haven't led with this is because it is a base 2 product, but it's not, it's still in sort of major development. It does work, but there are a few little improvements we're doing, which our software team have said sort of in the pipeline for 2 or 3 weeks. So this will work the same way that Adobe does, where you can add a signature onto any PDF or Word document you've got, and get a counter signature and all that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up now by going to this website, zencontract.com, and you can sign up when it is 100% ready. And this is free for now as well, and it'll be improved in the next few weeks. On the homepage, you can also book a demo. So if you're interested in looking at using the whole Zen Contract suite and managing your documents in the cloud instead of on Word documents, book a demo with us and we'll take you through.
Thank you. And just to be clear, that wasn't a planted question. So we're quite happy to show people the Adobe suite, or there is the Zen Contract suite as well. We actually built that suite for other IT companies that we sold to around the world, but the free version we are releasing end of next week, which just allows the market to start their whole process of digital transformation, if you like. So certainly under the confines of what we're operating now, you're not going to be necessarily sitting in front of someone to be able to do the signature thing. So whether it's Adobe or Zen Contract or HelloSign or whatever the product is, digital signatures are most definitely a way of the future. So thank you for that overview, Ben. So back to you. What's our next step?
Okay, next step is the big Microsoft Teams slide, and we're going to have a quick demo of how Microsoft Teams works, what you can use it for, its application in real life. We use this internally, and it's made our lives a lot better in a lot of ways. Communicating, video calls, chat, having groups where we can post information. So Steve's going to take us through a demo, so you should be able to take control over the screen from here.
Steve, just while you're doing that and getting set up, if I could just sort of offer a couple of lines to the wider listener pool. Microsoft's seen 44 million new users of Microsoft Teams over the course of the last 4 weeks for what is the completely and utterly obvious reasons, is that this is part of the Microsoft Office 365 suite. We all use that every day. It's all integrated. This gives you the ability, and you're about to see with Steve, I won't steal any thunder from his demo, but it's a collaboration and online tool. You're no doubt using it to some extent already. It's got a massive upturn, and it's going to be a huge forward portion of the way that we all work and collaborate and operate together. So it'd be a really good opportunity for us to be able to pass on some of that expertise. So back over to you, Steve. There you go.
Oh, all right. I just want to double check everyone can see the Teams slide up on screen now.
Yep, we've got that.
Cool. All right. So this is more of a crash course on getting started. I think we'll probably look to do something a bit more in depth at a later stage, but just want to go through some of the basic functionality. So what you see here is one of the first screens you'll see when you fire up Teams, and we'll just work through. So the majority of the application, you navigate through that left-hand panel there with the activity, chat, Teams, and stuff. So we'll start on the Teams section itself here. So inside of the Teams section, you've got that's 2 sort of things to look at. There's the bit that's highlighted right now is a team, and that's where it's a group of people. So like any normal team that you would see. And then inside the team, we have channels, which are kind of like your conversation flows or topics that you might be talking about. So in this case, we've just set up 2 channels that people can talk in. General channel just for normal work-based chat, and the break time channel, we try and roll that out to most of our clients as a place to give people somewhere to carry on being social without distracting from work. So at least it just encourages the team to be very friendly. So then down here we've got a chat going on inside that general team channel. So you can see that the conversations are threaded, which means that we can reply directly to an existing person. It means that you can you know, as if anyone has used chat apps going on before, you would see that you often get a bit of a mix of people answering questions that were asked further up the chain, and this threading allows us to keep those conversations together within Microsoft Teams. Now, if you want to reply to an existing thread, then you hit the reply button at the bottom of that thread chain. And if you want to start a whole new conversation within that channel, you just use that box down the bottom there. So next we'll move over to the one-to-one or the one-to-many chat functionality that you can use to, you know, to direct or things where you're not communicating to someone within a predefined channel. So this is where you can choose, you can send messages one-to-one. So you can see here we've got a couple of chats going back and forth already. So we've already got that conversation running with Justin there. If we want to then go and have a chat to someone new, there's the compose button up the top. So we click that and we can start typing away. So we have, we want to fire up a new conversation with Ben Jerry. So just by typing his name in there, it pops up his contact because he's part of our organization already. And you just hit enter and that conversation will fire up. Similar goes with if your organization has the external communication functionality enabled, you can search and communicate with other people that have Microsoft Teams. So both organizations would have to have external communications enabled. If this isn't working for you right now, then just get in touch with us because we can turn this on. But very similar functionality. Once you've got this person added into a chat, you're able to chat, call, video, share screens, all the works. So up here is the little section where you're able to, if you've got a one-to-one chat, you can also add another person to the chat. So you can make your own little channels that are less formal. Maybe it's used for just a quick temporary thing where there's 3 people involved and you just want to ask them something really quick. And then just to the left of that, there are the screen sharing, the phone and the video call buttons. Now, one thing to keep in mind, which is really cool, is this help feature here. And I'm not trying to deflect from contacting us. Please always do if you do want a question directly answered. But Microsoft Teams has a great help section. So inside that is a myriad of videos that welcome you to Teams. They have startups. They show you how to create channels, how to do the conference calls, all that sort of functionality. So there's a lot of stuff there pre-built by Microsoft ready to go. Next up, if you're looking to schedule a meeting outside of the organization and you want to include people that don't have Microsoft Teams, then this is your answer. So we're going to jump out to something a bit more familiar, which is your Outlook. And in much the same way that you create your normal meetings, you, instead of hitting the new meeting button and inviting people, you hit the new Teams meeting. So this button should be there. If it's not, give us a shout. Some of the people still have a hangover with the old Skype button hanging around there, but we can get rid of that and get that sorted for you. And then once you're inside that that next thing, that's just a standard meeting there. So you can invite anyone internally, externally, and they will get sent an email with that link here down the bottom. So where it's got this join Teams meeting, that's all they need. So this, just to reiterate, they do not need Microsoft Teams at the other end. They can just join straight from a web browser. And that's about it for the crash course. So there you go. So obviously encourage more questions. Hopefully that's enough to get you started. There's a whole lot more functionality in terms of Teams with files and stuff like that, but we sort of wanted to run it through a basic one first and then start expanding on that later on.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I think following this webinar, we're going to set up some kind of, I see there's a poll button here. Maybe we'll do a poll. Maybe we'll do another email to those of you who attended, asking what you'd like to see more of. And maybe that would be something more dedicated to Teams or something else entirely that we haven't covered. You, Steve? I will share this back for 1 moment. And you should be able to see the Microsoft Teams logo.
That is correct.
Next up, we're going to have some information from Justin Sharrocks about phishing emails. So we've seen obviously a massive rise in phishing emails. I'll let him talk about it. But
it's probably the most important thing to look out for, because it's the easiest way to give away your password, which is important. There's a lot of things we do to prevent that, even if you do give out your password, that hopefully will be able to protect you. But Justin's going to talk about phishing emails in general and how to keep yourself safe, even if you get a bad one.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Ben. So let me just take over the screen sharing. Share this one. So I just essentially just wanted to take you through 2 instances of phishing scams that we've come across. And I just wanted to remind you that you're not the only ones being made to stay home. All of the hackers and those friendly, nice people who want your credentials are also bored and at home and have nothing else to do. So they're getting more and more creative in how can they affect, how can they grab more credentials, how can they get into your stuff. So I just wanted to take you through a couple of examples and I guess the key things to look for when you're receiving emails. So I've created a couple of, so this is a legitimate email from Greg Sharp. I just asked him to send me an email so I could show you what his standard email looks like when it comes to me. So it says Greg Sharp to Justin Shamrocks, and there's nothing too great about it. If I go to this one, it looks exactly the same. So it just says from Greg Sharp, which is fine. He's my CEO, with please review and release this payment. So this is essentially what a standard one would look like. And, kind of has they're getting smarter and smarter, and they're kind of using the language that you would normally expect someone to speak to you with. So cheers, GS. That's generally how Greg signs off his emails. And, it looks pretty legit. If I click on the link, it kind of takes me to a web page that does nothing. So, okay, so no harm, no foul, close that off. But in the background, it actually downloaded a file. And that file is just going to sit there, and as soon as I log into my banking, it's going to cache my credentials and send it off to a server. So I just wanted to show you how to debunk and how to look for these types of emails. So it's always important to check the email address it's coming from. So, just double click on it. It'll say contact not found. And that's why we don't do live demonstrations. Let me just pop this open quickly.
Justin, it's going to come up with details which are inconsistent from what you would expect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to give me the wrong email address, which it's not going to do now, because let's go reply.
In the actual body, it says from Greg Sharp. I'm so fake.
There we go. So by clicking on the email address, it'll give you who it's actually sent from. So I'm so fake at base2.support. But it's so easy to just create a display name and put it on top of any email address. It's one of the most common email spoofing methods that come across, because it's not that difficult. You could be sending it from a Gmail account, and all you've done is, I could send it from justin.sharrocks@gmail.com, and all I do is change my name to Greg Sharp, and even though the email address is Justin, it'll still say it's from Greg, because that's what I've told it my name is. And we have a lot of mail filters in place to prevent things like this, and they are getting smarter and smarter. But so are the hackers, and we stop about 99% of things, but there's always going to be the 1%. So it's always good in terms of keeping ahead of the curve. So another one I wanted to show you, and this one has obviously, it's been a bit closer to home. As Greg mentioned, there's over 4 million people that have now joined Microsoft Teams. So a whole bunch of people are being added to groups, and we're all getting these Microsoft Teams emails saying, hey, you've just been added to this cool group. Open up Microsoft Teams and let's join. So this is a legitimate email. This came from Microsoft Teams. Here they actually put out the full email address, and you click on it and it takes you to where it needs to go, and you've now got your new Microsoft Teams. This is a fake one. So yeah, it's not as greatly designed as the Microsoft Teams one, but it looks pretty legitimate. And if it's the first one you're receiving, why wouldn't you believe it? So there's a couple of clues that it is fake. So if they make it exactly like the Microsoft Teams one, spam filters will actually pick it up. So they're trying to get close to perfect, but not perfect, because the spam filters can see when it's a fake, when it's perfect, but not when it's not perfect, if that makes sense. So they'll put a couple of holes in there. So Microsoft there is spelled with a 0. And a simple thing to check is hover over the links before you click them. It's like, okay, so that has nothing to do with Microsoft. So that's probably not a safe link. And again, over here, if you click on, I'm going to do it again. If you click on the email address, it says, I'm so fake at base2.support. So these are just 2 simple checks. So always hover over a link before you click it, and always check the email address it's come from. And if you're unsure, and even if it is legitimate, we don't care if you call us 100 times, it's going to take us a lot less time to tell you, please delete that email, than if you've clicked the link to fix everything that I think that has essentially gone wrong. So yeah, so that was my quick how to not get phished.
Very good. Thanks, Justin.
No worries.
Yeah, very common. And we obviously see it a lot. All right, can you see the fishing man?
Yes. Yep, we can see that.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, that's the end of our formalities of screen sharing, so we can start going through some of these questions. Greg, did you want to start off with that first one?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I wanted to thank Justin and Steve for they've answered 13 of the questions live, so that's great, and those will be, we're going to turn these into a document. We can trap these and make sure we send them out to all the registrants. But yeah, someone's asking, we have a dedicated tech person for continuity, and the short answer is yes. I can't give you any details as to the particular one because it's come from an anonymous attendee, but what we're trying to have in a structure is a primary engineer and a secondary engineer. It's all well and good for Base2 and other IT companies to go, well, we have this central documentation repository. There is nothing like having a continuity of person for relationships and for knowing that they worked on that ticket a while back or not and stuff. So I would urge you to, all of you, but certainly this particular person that put that question forward, is to contact your account manager, talk about a continuity of engineer. We'll assign one and then a secondary, and we'll get that in place. So, and probably try and set up some sort of regularity of site visit as well, just depending on how many users and stuff there are. So short answer is yes, please get in contact with us. We can try and put it in place. So back to you, Ben.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, hi, our office is currently using the client VPN of Meraki to connect to the work from home users and apply the policies and restrictions. Is Meraki able to notify us if somebody disconnects from the VPN?
So if there's a specific user, I guess that's having a problem, we can set up an alert on that specific user to say if that client connects or disconnects from the LAN, then we can get an alert. But in terms of as a whole, those alerts can't be set up if a person connects or disconnects from the client VPN. But there are ways around it. So if you said to us, hey, Brian is having a particular issue and we'd like an alert every time his VPN disconnects, we can track Brian. I hope that helps.
Cool. If you've got any more questions, just let us know. Next question. I deal with multiple organizations, several using Teams. I can't use several of them because Teams also defaults to just one of the organization's Teams, and it won't let me see the other ones from the other organizations. How do I manage this? Everyone for Steve?
Yeah, so I mean, Teams as an application will only let you just sign into one account at a time. But as an idea, we might be able to do something like have multiple web browsers opened on the computer at the same time with different teams signed into the web versions of the apps, or if it's something more permanent, maybe we can find another way of achieving that through a remote desktop server or something like that. So it all depends on yeah, how exactly that it's needed to be used, but we can see what we can do to find a better answer there.
Yeah, I also have a recommendation. If the user has, I guess, so 7 organizations, but if you have your default email account with Teams, you can now be added as a guest. So instead of having, I guess, maybe 7 different email accounts, and I'm not sure of the circumstance, but you could potentially just have that one and use that one across all of the 7, or create a new one and potentially do that. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Somebody said, I thought we're not supposed to click on links from unknown emails. You're definitely not. Hover over them first, and if it's an email from Microsoft, it should have a Microsoft related email URL, www.something. And if it doesn't, it's probably spam. You can forward the email to Ticket at Base 2, or you can call us or forward the email to your account manager. We're all trained heavily on this, but probably the best place is Ticket. But yeah, ask first and don't click. Any chance of giving us a quick demo of Zoom setup? Yep, I can do that in a second. Any suggestions on what's the best specs on a laptop to use from home? I can answer this, maybe we can elaborate. Our minimum spec for Base 2 is, or for customers internally, is an i5 processor, 8 GB of RAM, and a 256 GB SSD hard drive. So the SSD is really important, and the 8 GB of RAM is really important. The processor is probably the least important out of all of it, in my opinion. As long as you have the SSD and the RAM, pretty much fine. Justin, Steve, do you want to add to that?
I think probably also it just depends on what you're running at home. You know, I guess every home user is different. You know, some home users might be running the same applications that might be at business. So, or they might be syncing a hell of a lot. They might be drive intensive. They might be RAM intensive. So, or you might be a gamer. But I guess if you're a gamer, you normally know your PC specs anyways. But yeah, so I guess it just depends on what you're using it for. But the default spec is what Ben just mentioned. Yeah.
Cool. Maybe Steve can answer this one. Does Teams have sound notifications so you can tell when somebody has added a reply to a thread, etc.?
Yes, it does. So one of the things in Microsoft Teams is by default, when you join a channel, you're not following the channel. So by changing that channel to follow, you will start getting those notifications. There's also a cheeky thing you can do with by typing an @ symbol and putting someone's name in, it will always notify them. But there's the things that we can either jump in on a deep dive session with, or feel free to reach out. And if that didn't make sense, I can more than happy to help out with getting those channels followed.
So I'll just jump in there, guys, before we go to the next question. I think it's becoming more and more noticeable that if we were to have another Q&A session sort of dedicated to Teams, that we could put that out, you know, using the same systems we did before. People can register for that, and you can go into a deep dive, you know, with yourself and Justin. Ben can curate it, keep it going, but it's looking likely that that's a real source of information, and then perhaps we could have a general one and then a Teams one, so moving forward. So all good. Back to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you. Can you please show where we can enable on the back end from both sides so we can invite external people for Teams?
Sorry, I was chatting to Carlos. He posted it in there. So Carlos, that is something that the admin of the account needs to do. So it's just an enablement saying you have access to add guest users. I can definitely, if we take this off air, I'll give you a call, and then we can switch it on your side, and then obviously I can send you some screenshots to send to the other end.
Okay, thank you. Look, if anybody's got any more questions, put them in the Q&A. I'm just going to quickly, hopefully you can see my screen now. This is how you would schedule a new Zoom meeting. So Zoom is all done through the web browser. So you go to
zoom.us, log into your account, which is at the top right, and click on meetings. From there you can click schedule a meeting. This will be the subject, the topic. So that there you can put in a description, put in the date for when it's going to happen. So tomorrow, duration, time zone, whether you want it to be recurring or not, whether you want people to have to register, so they have to put their email address in before they can get into it. Give them an automatically generated ID, and require a password to get in. So you can allow hosts or participants to have video on or off. So in this example, I'm the host because I created the, and in today's webinar, I created the webinar, and the other guys are participants. But you can shuffle all that around from the settings within as well. And there's a few other little bits and pieces. If you allow people to dial in from telephones or computers, allow people to join before the host does, and sort of other quality of life things like mute participants as soon as they get in. If you save that there, then it will take you to the page in which you can send it to people. So probably the easiest way to do it is to click, if you're using Outlook or Gmail, I'd say that probably 99% of you are using one of these, especially for work. You can click on the Outlook calendar, it'll pop up here. And when you open that, you'll be able to, it'll be a calendar invite like any other normal Outlook calendar invite. We are set up, or in the process of being set up to have Zoom, so you can license it through Base2 if you'd like to. Otherwise, it's really easy. You can sign up and put in your credit card details. This is what the Zoom calendar invite would look like. So you just invite attendees as if it was any other kind of invite. Cool. Okay. If you need any more help with that, give the help desk a call and we can walk you through it. What does it mean that we're now changing to cloud file storage? Just curious. Okay. Who can?
Yeah, so I can jump in. So moving to cloud file storage essentially means you probably have an on-site file server at the moment. So you're using your shared drives that you use in your File Explorer, and that essentially is being moved to either Dropbox, which is the common one, or SharePoint, which is now, I guess, easier to access online anywhere. And obviously it ties into a whole bunch of your OnSuite products. I hope that answers that question. If you wanted to any deeper explanation to that, if you just let us know who you are, then I can assist with that.
Cool. Thank you. We've got one more question there about, is Zoom free? There is a basic version that's free. It has some technical limitations around, I think you can only be on a meeting for 40 minutes and then it'll boot you off. But it actually works for a lot of people. So the next version it's not that spendy. It might be $40 or something per month.
The next version, Ben, is $14 a month. That gives you one producer or one person that can create the meeting. And then up to 100 participants. But the first one, if you want to give it a go, 100% free. You create your account, no need for a credit card, anything like that. Ben's right. There's a limit of 40 participants, and it's only 40 minutes, and it does kick you off. It's got no grace period whatsoever, so it just goes whammo, and you're out. But it works pretty well until then. One of the, like I think we've discussed before, one of the biggest benefits is that you can tell it to have everyone's face on your screen, so you can, it's a bit more interactive that way. And as Ben also intimated, you know, albeit Microsoft, because of their huge Microsoft Office 365 install base, has had a massive upturn. Zoom was built for one purpose only, which was, you know, person-to-person video communications, one-to-many video communications, and running webinars. It's really only built for that, so Microsoft's catching up. They're probably the forefront leaders. Cisco would tell you otherwise because they bought WebEx, but you know, Zoom and Teams are the big players. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we pick products based on how easy they are to use generally, and Zoom, in my opinion, is probably the easiest.
I can probably go ahead and answer if you don't mind being on what are our thoughts on the House Party app, and then maybe Justin can finish off for that question about domestic connections. So the House Party app, albeit, I mean, I use it, right? So I'm guessing that question is to do with what are our thoughts on the security of it. There was a smear campaign that went out. It's as secure as any other video-to-video, mobile-to-mobile communications. There's not been any proof made that there's extra security flaws inside that House Party app. What people are a little bit worried about is if you don't close your House Party room, because what you do is get a room and people can come and join you, is that you might get some randoms just joining your room. So if you're having a chat with 3 or 4 of your BFFs and all of a sudden some random comes in, if you don't lock your room, not allowing them in, then that is the nature of the application. There's not any security flaws. If you were particularly paranoid about it, then install it, use it, uninstall it. But it is really no necessity to do that. It's as secure as anything else. Okay, Ben?
Yeah, okay. We've got one question left. Justin, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So, Gregory, if you just give us a call, we can do some testing at your house. So one of the things we can do is escalate it to the ISP to have a look at. But obviously during lockdown, they prioritized, I guess, these sorts of issues, and it probably will get added to the queue in some sense. But there's obviously a couple of things that we can test and try and assist as much as we can to, I guess, make it more bearable.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I just realised that nobody else will be able to see that. So the question was, what's the best way to uptake any internet/pipe issues with Base2 for domestic connections, or things we can try in the interim?
Yep.
How can you speed your internet at home without doing anything drastic like changing plan or buying any new hardware or anything? Okay, that pretty much wraps us up. So to take this opportunity to say thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to all of our panelists for being here.
Yeah, look, I'll just close that off, Ben. Thanks very much to everyone for attending. Hopefully it was helpful. We're going to seek a little bit of feedback. We think this is a good forum for the next 2 weeks. Absolutely, without fail, we're all in this for the next 2 weeks, but even during, as we move forward into level 3 and then level 2, we're going to keep these regular, and we're thinking that the right form will be 2 times a week for an hour block, and we can use less time if it's not all needed. So we're getting some good feedback already on the Q&A and the chat. We really appreciate that. I want to thank Ben for curating it and putting it together. Did an awesome job, thank you. And albeit our first one, it looked like it wasn't our first one. I think that's a pretty good start. And then the Brains Trust, which is Stephen and Justin. Thanks for getting ready for this and offering your insights. We realise it's on work time, but it's more effort than you would normally go through, and you're really accommodating and doing that. It's great to have you on board with it for those things. So from here, we will get out to you with the wrap-up email, follow-up email. It'll have a link to recording. If there's any questions we didn't get to, any information, we're going to put that on there as well. Expect to see that in the next 24, 48 hours, possibly because it's close to Easter, could be Tuesday. And then we'll start scheduling some more time. So, 1 or 2 next week and then the following week. So we'll go from there. But that will call it to a close. Thanks you very much. We're kind of within the confines of our hour, and go and have a great Easter from everyone at Base2. And stay safe, and we'll see you on the other side of Easter. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Okay. Good on you.
Steve's going to play us out on one of those guitars.
Yeah, right.
Not today. Maybe next time. Cheers, guys.
Good on you.